Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I saw something that came through my own newsfeed on my phone the other day. No one had to aware me of this. This is outside of our normal online genre because it was in pop sugar. But this kind of shows that how bad the information that gets put out and how bad some of these celebrity trainers are, because some of these celebrity trainers are phenomenal when they get the right environment with their clients. And then you have stuff like this that's just total nonsense. It's essentially basically bougie training for very wealthy people who just want to hire someone with a big name, and it really isn't that great a training. And this guy, Peter Lee Thomas, some of the stuff he's putting out is a perfect example. So for those of you who like these type of videos, though, please remember to click like down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and click that little bell to ring my bell, baby. But on to Peter Lee Thomas. So I went to look at his page too to see what he's about, what he's doing. And again, I can understand to a lot of the mainstream non-fitness world, they see a lean guy with abs. I see a weak guy with no leg development. And that's, again, I'm coming from the perspective of a strength coach. I see a guy who he probably wouldn't do too well in any real sport because I don't see any strength there. I'm looking at his structure. This is not a strong person, and he's talking about things related to strength training and weightlifting being on there. Then I look and see, and he's got cleanses for sale. I mean, there's usually your dead giveaway that there's a problem. Pro tip for the people who are unaware, who are not looking at evidence-based stuff out there, cleanses are not real. Okay. Again, cleanses are a made-up, make-believe idea that is sold to people who read magazines. Again, it's kind of almost bougie fitness. It's not actually real. It's just make-believe to give you something to spend money on that gives you a placebo to make you think that you did something. In some cases, they're dangerous. But you're not going to cleanse your body with a product, okay? This is, again, silly New Age hippie stuff that has kind of gone over to people who just want to buy something as a status symbol. I don't know. It's ridiculous. There is no such thing. So already when you know someone is selling a cleanse, there's a problem. There's a problem. So let's come over to what he said about cardio before weight training. Because when I get asked this, there is literally no world or any type of athlete I would ever prescribe cardio before weightlifting. Even an endurance athlete, even a marathon runner, I would not have them do cardio before they weight train. Right? There's no scenario in which I would ever prescribe this. But let's see what he has to say about it. One of the most asked fitness questions is whether you should start with cardio or strength training in a workout. Yeah. Ask a group of trainers and you'll probably receive a variety of answers. No, you won't. Not from good coaches you won't. They'll all say the same thing. With different reasons based on your physique, abilities, and fitness goals. Halle and her trainer, Peter Lee Thomas, did a fit talk during which they did answer the follower questions for her Fitness Friday post on Instagram. One fan asked, should I complete my cardio before weightlifting or the other way around? Peter replies, having cardio as a warm-up the first 10, 15, 20 minutes even, that do first before you do your weight training. According to the trainer, that's a really, really smart way of integrating your cardio. No, it isn't. That's a really dumb way. Into your weight training, therefore you will get a killer warm-up and you're not going to get hurt or injured. Peter acknowledged that some people, every good coach on the face of the earth, prefer to do the strength portion of their workout first, followed by a cardio burnout. No, I would separate them. But he suggests starting with cardio and then gradually moving into your weight training. Okay, this is absolutely ludicrous. First of all, I usually tell people that unless you have a time crunch requiring you to do them in the same session, and people who do both serious weight training and cardio probably have a very structured lifestyle. They probably have a lot of free time or else they wouldn't be integrating both to any serious degree. I would normally say any cardio session you're serious about needs to be separated from your weight training by a couple of hours with a meal in between. Okay, that's your minimum. So let's come over to the problem of what he's saying. He calls it a warm-up. Your body's already warmed up. I don't believe, and I don't believe that there is any statistical evidence or anything that has ever proven as far as the strength and conditioning world that shows that you have lower injury rates by doing warm-ups before you train. Okay, I want to make that clear. I'm not talking about getting yourself limber and mobile before you get out on a playing field. That's generally dynamic in nature, right? You're usually doing some sort of dynamic warm-up. We warm up in weight training not to prevent injuries. We warm up to ingrain movement patterns. In other words, we sometimes maybe get a little more mobile in our shoulder joints. Cardio's not going to do that. All right, we might do some band work before a really heavy bench session, right? I usually do a good 60 seconds of band work before I start benching on a max effort bench day. Okay, fair enough. I usually do some bands for a good minute, about a minute worth of band work up to, in some cases, 30 seconds to a minute before I start ramping to a max bench. Right, that's my routine, and I'm in my 40s, by the way. I don't get hurt on the bench. Do you know why? Because I program my lifts accordingly. I build my support musculature to avoid injuries. I program everything. I use a technique that avoids injuries. That's why I don't have shoulder injuries. You have to know how to program and train. It's nothing to do with warm-ups. But it is to get everything a little more limber. Squatting, I don't know, again, maybe do a little bit of light body weight squat warm-ups onto a box, something like that. Occasionally, if you feel really tight, jumping up onto a box for a few reps, a couple of box jumps. But we're dealing with a dynamic movement that in some cases just loosens up your joints and your mobility just a hair and ingrains the movement pattern. All right. We warm up to build strength. Warm-ups make you stronger. If you are stronger, you can move more weight safely. You can lift a heavier weight, right? Because if you're a 500-pound squatter, you might find without a warm-up that you can't squat more than 450, right? That you try to put more than 450 on the bar, you get stapled. But if you go 225, 315, 405, 455, 475, 485, and then ramp up to 500, you can hit your 500. That's a warm-up. You are warming up and priming your nervous system on the movement pattern you are training. Warming up with cardio or these general warm-ups don't reduce injuries. They don't improve performance. They're basically there for people who are so out of shape that they need to get up and move a little bit. But you could just as easily do a little bit of dynamic warming up. That's something that's movement pattern related, or that again, it maybe loosens up your shoulder joints a little bit, just gets a little bit of mobility, maybe a couple hanging stretches off of a chin-up bar, a couple of jumps. Something that's either dynamic in nature or just kind of, again, creates a little bit of flexibility and mobility in a joint that's too tight. That's a warm-up. That's a correct warm-up. When you do cardio first, you are reducing the effectiveness of your workout because you are depleting resources. And this is what the medical literature shows. This is what every coach shows. Your strength training is the most important part of your training for literally everybody other than a very serious endurance athlete. In other words, we know that your strength training affects your health more. It affects bone density, cancer risk, cardiovascular risk, all of these things more than your endurance work does. It should take priority. And even if you're an endurance athlete, people say, well, you wouldn't even have a marathon runner do cardio first. No, why would we? They're going to get so much cardio through the week. The very last thing we want to do, is fatigue or use any resources or not have them at 100% when they do a strength training session. Because what's our point with strength training? We need to reach the amount of training volume and training load that we get to give you the training effect you want. If you're more fatigued, you're going to output less in each set. You're going to output less. We're going to end up having you more fatigued, have to add more training volume over time in order to get you the training response that you want. It is overuse that causes injuries. Okay, let's come over. What's the number one cause of people who are already a little bit mobile? They have a movement pattern down, like you know the basics and you have the basic mobility to perform an exercise. What is the number one cause of injuries during strength training if you've picked good exercises that aren't counterindicated? It's overuse injuries. Okay, overuse injuries. A lack of proper fatigue management. That is actually, and every expert today now agrees on that. The experts all agree on that. Sports physicians, everybody else. We know overuse injuries are your concern. This is not useful. You're creating additional fatigue before you get under a barbell. Right? That's just stupid. And if you had to pick between the two of skipping the cardio or skipping the weight training, you should skip the cardio. And I'm not saying not to do cardio. I'm saying not to do your conditioning work. I'm saying that strength training is a higher priority. And so the whole idea of what he's doing here, he's simply promoting nonsense that's going to reduce your results. Because it kind of comes over to the point of why do we strength train? Well, number one, to build muscle, to build strength. Well, someone says, I don't want to build that much muscle. They act like it's easy to do. You know, they get this idea in their head, oh, yeah, you'll accidentally build too much muscle. It's not going to happen without anabolics, okay? That is absolutely not going to happen. Number two, if it was your concern, then just do a little less weight training. Don't do something that's going to fatigue you before your strength training. That's ludicrous. Why interfere with your training response? If you don't want to gain that much muscle, train for the amount of muscle that you want to gain. In other words, if you think your pecs are getting too big and you're doing 225 for sets of 5 on the bench press, don't add any more weight or any more reps for the rest of your life. Problem solved. If your butt now has too much muscle on it and you're doing sets of 5 with 500 pounds on the deadlift, maybe drop down to sets of 5 with 475 and your butt might shrink a little bit. I mean, this isn't a difficult concept. But you don't jump in and say, let me reduce the effectiveness. What you would actually say is, hey, since I don't want to gain muscle faster, I want to slow down the amount of muscle I'm gaining, just train less. You don't need to do things that interfere and make the workouts worse. Just instead of weight training 3 times a week, train 2 times a week. Instead of doing 5 sets of squats every workout, do 2 or 3 sets of squats every workout. Problem solved. But this sort of stuff is not the solution even for people who aren't trying to get ultra jacked. They're not trying to reach maximum jackitude. They're not trying to get their squat to 500 pounds. This is not the solution. Just don't put in 10 years of extremely hard work under a barbell 4 days a week. Right? Then you don't have to worry about those extreme results happening. Don't dedicate the next 10 years of your life to it. Problem solved. Go ahead and just train normal. But this, again, shows the problems. It highlights the problems we have with some of these celebrity fitness trainers. Like, this is complete nonsense. This is bad advice, and this is not advice anyone should be following. It's just bad. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.